Folks, imagine this is 2020. And I just told you, hey, in 4 years, the Iranian regime is going to fire hundreds of missiles, ballistic missiles, cruise missiles to Israel. And the Iranian regime will get away with it. The Israelis will do nothing. The US will do nothing. I think you would have been right in 2020 to call me crazy for suggesting that that is a viable scenario that might happen in 2024. And yet we're here in 2024 where a string of absolutely miserable foreign policy decisions by this administration led us to this point. And now they have seemed to Homer Simpson themselves into a corner by doing the exact same thing, the exact same mistake, and somehow looking forward to a different outcome, which is, some would say, the definition of insanity. Now look, this is all facts. Let's talk about it. So the US policy of appeasing Iran, of giving the bully their lunch money, is coming back to bite the US and its allies in the rear end. That's what happens when you don't punch back at bullies. It's very, very simple. In 2021, the Biden administration decided that it would be a really good idea to allow the Iranian regime to restart its uranium enrichment, basically to kickstart the nuclear program of the Iranian regime. They've done it by basically looking the other way when the Iranians basically just did it. And the response was to negotiate with the Iranians, allowing them to continue and removing the Houthi rebels from the terrorist list. Yes. So Iran defies all previous agreements. They restart the nuclear program. The US negotiates instead of slapping them like they should have. And the end of the negotiation is, well, they get to continue to do it and we'll remove the Houthis from the terrorist list. Now, since then, I think it's undeniable that the Iranian nuclear program has only accelerated and the US response has become lackluster and is becoming more lackluster as time goes by. Now, from 2022 to 2024, we have seen an increase of about 80% in the amount of oil the US has allowed the Iranians to export. We fast forward to what happened on October 7th, which is horrendous. The US response was to basically not blame Iran. And instead of doing anything about it, allowing the Iranian missile embargo to just expire. So October 7th happens. Iran was clearly behind it in some capacity. The US response is lift the missile embargo. Now, if you think that you're living in an opposite world, you should be, because this makes no sense to me either. Now, Hezbollah starts firing rockets and missiles and killing civilians in the north of Israel. The US response is, hey, Israel, don't start a war with Hezbollah. Be a good chap and just don't mess things up so we don't have high oil prices. You know, just take it. And now the US is negotiating with Hezbollah to stop this. And I think you can guess what kind of negotiations we're talking here and what kind of a sweet deal the US is going to get from these negotiations. Because when you negotiate from a place of weakness, you get screwed for the lack of, or for my lack of desire to use the actual word I was about to say here. On top of it, we have the Houthi rebels literally blockading the Suez Canal, the Red Sea. No consequence whatsoever. Nothing at all. On top of it, what about the US servicemen that were killed in terrorist attacks on US bases? No real response from the US. Instead, every 4 months, the US administration is now releasing $10 billion to Iran of Iraqi locked money. So the logic of this would only lead Iran to understand that the US only folds. They never retaliate. They never respond. And they will never do anything about it. So that leads Iran to become more emboldened, to become much more aggressive, and to lose all fear. The US deterrence in the Middle East and the US deterrence vis-a-vis Iran has never been weaker than it is right now. And the most incredible part of this whole story, that somehow this is all still salvageable because the Israelis are about to take away one of the proxies of Iran, wipe it out. Of course, talking about Hamas. Now, Iran is really good at waging war, not just on missiles and ballistic missiles and drones. They're really good at PR. They're really good at paying journalists. They're really good at stirring shit up. And they have a lot of help from anti-American organization. Let's put it this way. So Iran has made it very unpopular for the Israelis to destroy Hamas by spreading some lies about civilian casualties, about war crimes and all this crap. And now the US is heading into an election year in which it has to make some political decisions. And that political decision is to throw the Israelis under the bus and stop the Israelis literally 10 yards before they're in the end zone, before they kill Hamas, to stop them from going to Rafah. Literally stopping weapon shipments to the Israelis. Now, ask yourself this question, and I'm just asking a question. What kind of a message does this send to Iran? If US stops Israel from finishing the job in Rafah, what kind of message are we getting here? So, forget the fact that Iran gets to keep the Hamas, whatever it's called now, the Hamas extension, the Hamas 2.0, the proxy that did Hamas that was supposed to be destroyed by the Israelis will be saved by the US. So if Iran was emboldened before, if Iran was aggressive before, if it was fearless before, saving Hamas from the Israelis by the US for the sake of winning an election, short-term, quiet, low energy prices for inflation, that leads to horrific, horrendous results in the Middle East for the United States. And any hope of building a coalition in the Middle East between the Saudis, the Israelis, and all the moderates in the Middle East to allow this part of the world to somehow maintain a sane way of life and to allow some sort of a control and influence by the US is all going down the drain because this administration is literally making every possible mistake in the book to destroy the US foreign policy. Now, you may agree, you may disagree. I would love to hear your comments in the comment section of this video. In fact, even if you disagree with me, I'm happy to wage a discussion about what's going on. I do appreciate you staying to the end of this video. If you haven't yet, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/TomNashReport. These videos are mostly not monetized. Some of them are, some of them aren't. But if you want to support the work we do here, check out the Patreon. Would love to have you there. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next one.